Welcome and welcome back to the Honey Star Tarot, and welcome to Saturn Retrograde. So it started on July 13th. I know I'm a little late with getting this video out, but we've got some time to work with this energy through November. Before we get started though, I just want to say thank you guys to each and every one of you for all the ways that you lift this channel up, support this channel, show your love to this channel. Truly, each one of you make a difference, and I love you back. So this Saturn retrograde, trust me, it's a good thing, but it's got some lessons. Saturn does not take it easy on us, and this is really truly about where you want to go, what kind of leadership you want to take in your life, and also too, who's going with you. But either way, throughout all the transitions, all the lessons, you lead, and it's important to remember that. So Saturn is our planet. Oh my goodness, thank you. Saturn is our planet of discipline, responsibility, limitations, caution, delays, rules and regulations, pain and fear, authority, control, denial, and biggest one, karma. And the sirens just went on. There you go for confirmation. So with limitations and lessons, this is where Saturn helps us as we learn through the challenges and how we work through them, how accurately we can overcome them with basically rising to the challenge. We rise stronger, we rise brighter, and we rise more resilient because of them. It's also our planet of structure, boundaries, and the passage of time. So it has a lot of prioritization involved with it as well. And what are, really balancing what we want to do with the time that we have. And it urges us, teaching us basically patience, responsibility, as well as realism, tangible visualization in pursuing our goals. And in the zodiac, Saturn rules as our task manager. So Saturn encourages us to confront our weaknesses, learn from our mistakes, and love our evolution, love ourselves and our growth along the way as we walk towards our true north, our north node, and our highest self. Now, while it can certainly bring difficult experiences, like I say, Saturn does not take it easy on us by any means. I am not going to try and paint that in a sugar coat. It ultimately is a force of spiritual growth and holistic wholeness. And if that resonates, by all means, put a heart in the comments below if you're already feeling these energies. I know I have been. So this is where, starting things out right away with the tarot, this is the Ace of Cups. This is where it's like Saturn is coming in to balance the scales. So this is actually a very positive thing. Like I say, it gives that empowerment to us of where we want to go and who's going with us. But either way, we take the lead. And like I say, if that resonates, share your thoughts in the comments below of what you're experiencing, because this is the beginning of prosperity, abundance, new relationships, as well as new opportunities, fortune and love, joy, health, spirituality, creativity, positivity as well, especially with Jupiter right now too. And we've got Jupiter blessing us all the way into 2026, remember that. But it also taps us into our potential, as well as taps us into following our inner soul's compass, our intuition. This is also standing up and seeing the truth, especially when it comes to the shadows, with that Sagittarian energy being underneath, uplifting that Scorpionic energy. But ultimately, it's about following the heart, letting the heart lead, and also listening with our hearts. And it represents and presents to us a new beginning of personal power, of potential. It's also the early stages with new ideas, making positive change through our creativity, and standing up for our first causes, right? Stand for something or fall for everything, as they say. And being the ruler of Capricorn, this is the sea goat of the zodiac. This is where Saturn really, and Capricorn, represents the journey of climbing the spiritual mountain of purpose, achieving self-mastery as we navigate both the material world and the depths of our emotion, and thus harmonize our earthly ambitions with our spiritual enlightenment, recognizing also too that they're not necessarily always mutually exclusive. Associated here too with serving humanity and a higher cause, just like Virgo being a sign of service. Capricorn helps us in grounding and building a solid foundation of wisdom through our practical experiences and lessons learned from the material world here. But most importantly, what I love about Capricorn is it teaches us this aspect, builds the solid foundation of wisdom through the power of transmutation. This is where we can look at those negativities and find a way to build from them, build a foundation from them. And this retrograde, I will say right away, has a lot to do with wealth. Because remember, Saturn is also about building wealth and long-term wealth at that. And it's all really to reach our highest potential, right? And so when Saturn goes retrograde, it allows our karma, our cause, and our action to really check in with us and reevaluate, revolutionize as well our life path and how we're doing in achieving our long-term goals, how we're doing with honoring boundaries, responsibilities, commitments, how we're doing with confronting preconditioned and conditioned limited beliefs, imposed limited limitations, fears, and also too the foundation which we've built our life. Saturn encourages us, the taskmaster, the timekeeper, encourages us to restructure and refine these aspects and narratives too, where necessary, including when it comes to illusions, deceits, especially in the spiritual industry, as he pushes us to make the unrealistic real with artistic and orchestrated grace and frequency, which I positively love about Saturn. This is all about looking at the soul level as opposed to the three-dimensional that's in the body, right? And as the Queen of Swords right away, this is where you are looking at these aspects with confidence. You're utilizing your perception, that seeing things from the spiritual eyes, utilizing your throat chakra, really being aware and cognizant of the commitments that you sign up for, allowing yourself to be heard, as well as your unconscious to confront those limited beliefs that we may not even realize. Because remember, this life is a mirror, even at an unconscious level. And so what you see come into this life, especially during this retrograde as it manifests through the unconscious level, through the spiritual level, it really helps us with tapping into our intuition and really listening to that inner compass and recognizing those lessons for exactly what they are. So if you've got conflicts coming in, pay attention to what boundaries it's testing, what lessons you need to work on with how you work through those lessons as well. This is also where it's important to stand up, especially in your self-worth. Strong character with that Queen of Swords is where Spirit's really encouraging you, and also too, focusing, especially when it comes to spiritual industries, on our sovereignty with that independence. When it comes to our financial structure with organization, with articulation when it comes to compromise, collaboration, working together, and most importantly, standing our ground, highly principled. That's where it's like Virgo in the energy here, being exalted by the scales of Libra. That's all about balance. So wherever things are imbalanced, particularly when it comes to finances as well as relationships with this retrograde hitting our 8th and our 7th houses, and we'll get into it as well. This is where we're coming to the center and really bringing balance between our creative flow and also the air energy, how we utilize the power of our voice. With swords as well, like I say, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. Saturn brings in some hard lessons, rules, regulations, fear, authority, control, denial, caution, where we need to recognize those signs of our intuition. This is where we're coming against conflict and issues, and we're utilizing our intellect as well as leaning on Mercury here, which will soon be going retrograde. Stay tuned for that reading as well. But that's where we're coming into the table. We're coming into these problems through problem solving, especially with Uranus and Venus and Gemini right now in our 10th house, utilizing the power of our mind, of our consciousness when it comes to taking action towards our long-term goals. Again, where do you see yourself in 2026, especially with it being the year of 10, the big year of where you want to go and who's going with you? And like I say, if that resonates, by all means, oh my gosh, the bottom of the deck is pulling me here. But if that resonates, by all means, put a heart in the comments below. Share your thoughts, because this is liberation. with the transformation of death, this is where it's like it's a revolutionary idea here. There's a revolutionary change. It's the end of a phase and the start of something new, especially when it comes to overcoming limitations, failures, or things that you perceive as failures, especially when it comes to looking at the South Node, which is in Virgo right now as well, with that scorpionic energy. That's looking at those shadows and turning those wounds into wisdom in your present day life, learning to cherish every bit of you, because what you think is a weakness is actually your strength. It's how you turn it into a strength that matters most through this journey. And with the 13, that's divine feminine energy written all over it, right? This reduces to a 4, so it combines with new beginnings as well as finding that dynamic balance with the 3, forming that stable balance that stands the test of time and that stands the test of any conflict through resilience, particularly when it comes to relationships with the Lover's card here. This is about partnerships, especially about decisions and knowing what direction you want to go, making good decisions with wisdom instead of out of haste. This is also, too, a bit of romance and passion, love, whatever you're pulled to with your heart's desire, especially with letting your heart lead the way. And again, it speaks to that Geminian energy. And remember, Uranus just went into Gemini, first time in 84 years. It's standing in our 10th house. And also, too, Venus is standing in Gemini in our 10th house. So this is like going after the heart's desire when it comes to your true career, how you want to be seen in the world, your reputation, your fame, your achievements, your honors. This is following the soul's path of the heart, manifesting and creating your dream life. And remember, check out that video if you haven't seen it as well, but I did do another reading on Neptune, which is also retrograde and conjunct with Saturn, now retrograde as well. Both are in Aries, both are in the 8th house. With this conjunction, so Neptune in retrograde is really helping us realign to our true self path, our true soul's calling. Saturn's bringing structure to that. It's so beautiful when you work with this energy. And like I say, the biggest thing is to work with the higher vibrations of it, which Uranus is basically asking of us right now too. That is high breakthroughs, high level vibrations and frequencies, where Uranus, all that he's really asking is for us just to stand and be authentically us in every bit of what we are and every bit of who we are and what we're meant to do. And Saturn's helping us bring those beliefs, those faiths, those dreams, especially from Neptune's dreams, and bring structure into that reality, create that foundation for us. And so this is the time, like I say, where especially with this, with Saturn basically going retrograde, this is the time, especially through transmutation, Saturn allows our karma, our cause and our action to check in with us and reevaluate our life path. This is basically checking in on how we're doing with achieving our long-term goals, how we're doing with honoring our boundaries, our responsibilities, our commitments, how we're showing up for ourselves as well as how we're showing up for others. And also, too, how we're confronting those conditional and preconditioned beliefs that have limited us and have caused us to think that doors are locked for us, even though we've never tried to open them. And if that resonates, like I say, by all means, put a heart in the comments below. Share your thoughts, like, share, subscribe, because the taskmaster, the time master, during this retrograde is encouraging us to be restructuring things, refining these aspects and narratives where necessary, so that we can realign and create the unrealistic into the real through artistic, orchestrated grace and frequency. And so, starting out with this retrograde, Saturn is going to be. I know I can talk. Sorry. So Saturn is going to be in Aries in our 8th house from July 13th all the way to September 1st. Mind you, spoiler alert, September 1st is going to be a huge day. Check out the weekly reading if you haven't seen it, but just to touch on another piece of a good part of this, Mars, which is currently in Virgo in our 1st house, is also going to be changing signs on the 1st. And this is where it's like things really take off. This is a day that's huge. But during this time when Saturn's in Aries in our 8th house, it's going to be prompting us, he's going to be prompting us rather, to review our goals and our commitments and take charge of our lives on a very deep level. Take action where necessary. Really look at our plan and look at where there still needs refinement, where there's cracks, where there's bumps that haven't quite been worked out yet, right? And it shifts back into Pisces from September 1st all the way to November 27th. During that time, it's going to be in our 7th house, and it's going to be urging us to really take introspection on boundary setting, utilizing our intuition and our creative expression, and upholding our sovereignty when it comes to our spirituality. As a whole, Saturn's retrograde urges us to hold ourselves accountable, take responsibility in building a solid foundation and structure, and do it through our creative pursuits. And like I say, Venus and Uranus is in Gemini in our 10th house of career, fame, achievements, reputation. Pluto is in Aquarius in retrograde in our 6th house of work and lifestyle, basically asking us how we define success, basically channeling and really building, shining as our inner warrior, shaking things up with outside the box, innovative approaches. Mercury is also in Leo. Check that video out if you haven't seen it yet. But Mercury in Leo is in our 12th house of spirituality. This is where we're tapping into our connection with the divine, psychic gifts, hidden talents, uncovering and seeing through the sugarcoating, I guess, in a lot of ways, on hidden enemies, right? Who really is supporting us? And spoiler alert, stay tuned for this week as well. Check out the weekly reading if you haven't seen it. But Mercury is going to be going retrograde, and this is only going to amplify where our ideas are gold. We're building the stage so that when we enter Leo season, which is coming in this next week, that basically the curtain is drawing. We've built that stage. We've got these golden ideas that create revolutionary, evolutionary change. And then Leo season is going to be where Virgos are asked to showcase our talent. The curtain is up. The eyes are on us. People are listening to what we have to say, especially when we're coming to the table with new perspectives, fresh ideas, innovations that haven't been approached yet. This is where Virgos are truly standing as the spiritual teachers and healers of the zodiac. And like I say, this whole summer is like a preview for what's going to come 2026, especially after February. So, also, too, like I touched on before, Mars is in Virgo in our 1st house. So this is basically how we're showing up for ourselves, how we're showing up for our relationships, how we're standing up for what we believe in, especially when it comes to our long-term goals. And Mars is our go-getter planet. This is about going after our dreams, going after our long-term aspirations, no longer letting those play at the sideline so that we can sit in our south node of safety and comfort and repeat lessons. This is headed towards our north node in a very big way. And like I say, Neptune in retrograde, also in conjunction with Saturn in retrograde in our 8th house, shared resources, debts, investments, commitments, legal commitments as well. So contract signing in a lot of ways as well. Saturn is going to be helping Virgos in a very big way with all of these external energies as well. The outer planets, basically all changing size within the last 6 months. 4 of them going retrograde here as well. Saturn is going to be helping us with aligning us to a financial and a strong energetic foundation in how we lead our life and how we lead our commitments. Keep in mind, like I said before and touched on, Jupiter is blessing us as well. Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. This is where Jupiter loves to be. This is Jupiter's favorite place, and it happens to be sitting in our 11th house, shining in our 11th house. That is long-term aspirations again. This is hopes, wishes, dreams, blessings, optimism, abundance. And Jupiter will be blessing us, kissing us. Check that video out if you haven't seen it yet. But it's going to be blessing us through June 30th all the way into 2026. So there's a lot of luck, prosperity, abundance, especially in our emotional health, friendships, long-term goals and aspirations that Jupiter is helping us with at this time. And like I say, Saturn is really looking at how we want to embrace the choices that we make with where we want to go and who's going with us. This is also about embracing the duality, right? The divine feminine and the divine masculine energies within each and every one of us. This is also where it's like embracing the north node versus the south node. So again, our north node is in Pisces as well. This is basically going after our dreams, ascending to our highest timeline, unlocking those doors that were closed or that we thought we could never open in the first place. These are new beginnings and going after them when it comes to listening and being guided by our intuition and our true soul's eyes, our path, our purpose, something much bigger than a career can offer us, something much bigger than our South Node ego can even imagine for us when it comes to manifestations. But again, if you've been experiencing indecision, stalemate, evading making a difficult choice, Saturn is coming in to really help us with taking a look at things and making that difficult choice with embracing all sides of ourselves and all sides of our society at a collective level to shine light on those shadows and bring justice, balance, fairness, equitability to our decisions, to our path, to our new beginnings. And with the two, this is all about, again, embracing the polarities within each and every one of us, within our life, within our decisions, and making a choice with our gut, right? With our intuition, listening to our soul's inner compass, as opposed to outside influences that are trying to push us towards their narrative, as opposed to letting us rewrite our story, or write our own story for that matter as well. So a lot's going on in the astrological plane. This is the time, like I say, where Saturn is really helping us remember our spirituality, our soul's path, and two, looking far greater outside of the realm of just a three-dimensional being, just our three-dimensional body. So it's listening to a lot of the signs that are coming at you, how the universe is manifesting. And remember, everything that manifests in our outer world is a mirror of our inner world. So if you see conflict coming at you, pay attention to what the details are in those conflicts, how you've resolved them in the past, how you can resolve them better. This is all what Saturn is bringing us, and this is what this whole retrograde is about. So it's not going to be easy. I'm not going to lie and sugarcoat that, but it is so rewarding, and ultimately it is such a force for spiritual growth and holistic wholeness that I cannot even tell you how much my ears are ringing and how many goosebumps I have right now. I'm just saying. So at this time, like I say, this is where with everything going on in our 8th house, it's going to really help us with focusing on structure. Now, when Saturn moves from Aries and our 8th house into Pisces, this is going to take place. I should back it up first before we get there. So let's dive deeper into the Aries and the 8th house aspect. So from July 13th through September 1st, it really presents us a time to really look at our financial structure, our debts, our investments, our joint assets in a very pragmatic and practical way. So just to kind of give you an idea of what Saturn's going to be asking us, this is time where Saturn really asks us to reorganize as well as prioritize. So addressing any outstanding bills that we've been not looking at, balancing, and I know this is like an old-fashioned term or way of looking at it. Not many of us have these anymore to begin with, but balancing our checkbook, really looking at what's coming out versus what's going in. Also, too, potentially even refinancing where necessary to make things easier on the short run of what's going in and what's going out, to balance that out and get back into the black, out of the red, counting term there, shout out. But this is where even reevaluating as we get back into the black, as we prioritize more coming in as opposed to coming out, with restructuring, reorganizing, prioritizing, revisiting basically how we're planning in the long term for retirement. He also asks us to raise and revisit our values regarding money and bring awareness to how our self-worth entangles with our money manifestations and our financial management. So also too, it basically looks at that at a deeper level of like, how our money management, how our money manifestations how our self-worth are not only entangled, but how our self-worth impacts how we manifest in our money management, our financial abundance in terms of limiting beliefs, including self-doubt. And also, too, looking at it in a way with a multi-dimensional scale of what's coming at us, what's really limiting our beliefs and our actions on a conscious and an unconscious level. Through facing these fears, confronting unresolved issues, we can free ourselves from those doors that we've left closed, that we've thought were locked, when really all we have to do is just turn that knob and realize they open right for us as long as we take the right action and recognize our self-worth. And so this is the time basically where we really realize the power of our intent, the power of our emotions, the power of our consciousness at a soul level. And it opens us through expansion, through realization that we are so much greater. We are so much more powerful than just our three-dimensional being. In fact, our three-dimensional selves is really just a mere shadow of the light fractal that we truly are as a soul. And if that resonates, by all means, put a heart in the comments below, because this is a period that'll really help us with reassessing our emotional bonds. I can't even stress that enough. And Saturn retrograde can disrupt or delay natural functions, cause conflict in relationships, particularly, especially with intimate relationships that we hold close. So family, spouse, siblings. There could be issues of fairness, boundaries that need to be addressed during this time. Also, too, it's important to have those difficult conversations and not fall into the lower vibrations of self-sacrifice, sacrificing our boundaries, being tempted to overspend in particular as well, or over-leverage ourselves in a financial, spiritual, or emotional way. Because basically, when we're not being honored, it creates a bigger instability in our foundations. It reveals the cracks, and instead it allows us, when the Seven of Cups is upright, to really be tempted by superficialities as well as decoys, right? That's when we start coming into aspects of loss. Instead, when we look at those places where we're not being honored, when we're not honoring ourselves and our self-worth, we're able to create a greater stability in our foundations for the long term so that our connections can stand the test of time. Our connection with ourself, with our intuition, with our relationships, our one-on-one connections, and foster that emotional stability so that we have that resilience. And this also goes with voicing your boundaries, especially with those that don't honor and support you. I'll say that again. This is where instead with the Seven of Cups, when you speak, when you voice those, when you hold those boundaries and know that it's not, a lot of people that don't, when it's toxic, they'll come back at you and they'll come back with lower vibrational aspects and think that your boundaries are mean or negative, right? And really that's not the case. It's not an issue about trying to hurt someone, and that's why it's important to also remember that your words hold power. But instead, it's about choosing to stay and head in the right direction that builds that resiliency as well as that stability. It teaches people in a lot of ways how to respect you. And it starts from respecting and holding yourself responsible and accountable for honoring yourself and your self-worth. And if that resonates, by all means, like I say, share your thoughts in the comments below, put a heart in the comments below, like, share, subscribe, because this is where you're really seeing through those illusions and you're choosing reality, right? You're knowing, especially with Saturn, Saturn is the planet that really teaches us the rewards that come from hard work, resilience, and discipline when it comes to going after your long-term goals. It's not about seeking the quick fix. It's not about reducing the problem by brushing it under the rug. Instead, it's about teaching us the greater rewards that come from delayed hard work, or the delay of gratification that really comes in through hard work, I should say. And it's also with that 7, that's a highly spiritual number, right? We're in the month of 7. We're in the month of July. This is where, and we'll be in the month of August too, which is infinity, right? This is about standing the test of time in our spiritual sovereignty, in our spiritual leadership. And again, this whole retrograde is about where you want to go and who's going with you, but remembering most of all that you are taking the lead, that you're in the lead. And also too, with the 7, that's the Chariot card in the tarot. So that's about taking those reins and really leading the charge, right? This is also about leading the charge against challenges, problem solving, utilizing that Geminian energy in our 10th house, seeing with our intuition when it comes to the hidden wisdoms, embracing the North Node and the mysteries that it brings, from the blessings that it brings as we ascend. This is all about your third eye intuition. And also too, a lot of that scorpionic shadow energy, but remembering that Venus is kissing us as we embrace those shadows. Because remember, that's our heart's desire. It's letting our soul lead the way towards our highest elevation. And especially when it comes to the 10 of Pentacles, especially with this first part being an Aries, focusing on our finances, this is about looking at the conflicts, looking at the financial issues that we're maybe not have been addressing or overlooking. This is about if you've been dealing with familial disunions, right? Feeling outcast, or like you're walking alone, like you're not working in unity, where there's not collaboration, or looking at the areas where you're not satisfied, where you've not been receiving that reciprocal alignment when it comes to your finances as well as your relationships. Instead, you're transitioning, seeing them, honoring those boundaries, honoring the structure that needs to take place, the reorganization, the lessons that need to be learned from the material world, transmute that negativity, and more importantly, reach our highest potential and reach for our highest potential when it comes to creating the foundations that stand the test of time and the test of no matter what challenge comes the way. I just absolutely love this energy. So again, this is all about growth, and this is about too, with retrogrades, practice makes perfect, the repetition. And so a lot of these karmic lessons that are going to be coming up won't be new to you. It's more of a test of like, okay, how much have I learned? Do I need to repeat, reflect, look at how these aren't working? More importantly, look at the refinement that needs to take place. And like I say, if that resonates, by all means, share your thoughts in the comments below, because from September 1st through November 27th, Saturn's going to be moving back into our 7th house. So it's going to be focused all on partnerships, and it's going to be in Pisces. So Saturn is also very comfortable in Pisces. Remember too, Neptune is conjunct with Saturn right now. Both are in retrograde. And Pisces is the dreamer, right? We've got so much leading us towards our heart's desires, towards reinventing ourselves as a spiritual sovereign, right? Following our true soul, our true soul's path, our true calling when it comes to our career, our stability, our finances, our lifestyle, our work ethic, our relationships with tangible visualization and structure. And Saturn, when it moves into our 7th house, back into Pisces, it provides an opportunity to revisit boundaries that have been set over the past 2 years. So think back for the boundaries that you've been setting over the past 2 years. Ask yourself, are they working? Just point blank, no sugarcoat. Also too, if they're not, if there's areas that need refinement, ask, what needs to happen to reinforce them? Do you need to take the reins, take the lead in reinforcing those boundaries that you've set for the past 2 years or over the past 2 years? Also, too, it's a great time to ask if you feel like people aren't respecting your no. And remember, no is a sentence. No explanation needed. If you want to offer one through compassion, through patience, through understanding, through love leadership, that's totally fine. It only helps you reinforce and reaffirm so that people can understand your perspective on why you're saying no, why you're upholding the boundaries that you've set. But this is the time where if people aren't respecting your no, it's time to basically look even at setting new rules that reinforce and reaffirm the why behind them. And also too, with Pisces now taking center stage, it's also a good time to get in touch with your creative and emotional structures, your inner well-being, right? Ask yourself, do they still hold? Or is there support that's necessary? It's time to make space for art, for spiritual practices, for the introspection. And we've got time, like I say, from September 1st all the way to November 27th to work with this energy. But before we do that, remember, when it comes to the no, when it comes to your boundaries, remember that instead of playing the blame game, especially with leadership, it's important to stand in your love leadership. So instead of playing the blame game, remember where you hold power most. Reflect on your role, what you can do differently, because you only hold the power over your actions and rewriting your chapter. You're not to be held, nor meant to be held responsible for other people's actions. So again, if people are toxic and they're coming in and saying, well, your boundaries hurt me, rather than wanting to honor them out of respect, that's a red flag right away, right? You're not responsible for their emotions. You're not responsible for their actions in retaliation, especially in toxic environments. This is the time to reaffirm the why if you want to come to the table with compassion, especially with Neptune here as well in retrograde. Neptune fosters that collective consciousness, right? Those collective conscious moves that foster leadership when it comes to leading with empathy and compassion. So you can empathize with them. Absolutely. You can sympathize as well. But holding and taking responsibility for their emotions and their actions is not what anyone is meant to do when it comes to being a leader or when it comes to leading yourself in this life. And if that resonates, by all means, put a heart in the comments below, because Pisces is going to be teaching us these lessons and also freeing us from these karmic cycles, these karmic patterns, and these karmic contracts in a lot of ways as well. Because like I say, it's all about the focus of partnerships. So when it comes to honoring yourself, like I say, especially with Saturn being this transmutator, especially with it being the ruler of Capricorn, art, emotional, creativity, and spiritual structures are going to be so important during this time. So take the time, make the time to take the time. That's what I'm trying to say. Through introspection, and honor yourself, honor these spaces that really help you with your transmutation. There's no better time when it's in Pisces like this to commune with your muse, seek your therapy, and however you find whatever therapy you utilize, music, art, speaking with somebody, to find and foster that inner peace, because that is the true place when you hold your center like that, that leads towards an outer manifestation of peace in the world around you. And this is your new beginning. Like I say, it's all leading you to your prosperity with the Ace of Pentacles. This also helps you too with creating avenues, particularly if you're an artist, musician, spiritual healer, leadership, any which way that you utilize those places of healing, therapy, to foster those in a way that brings financial gain, especially with our 10th house, with Uranus bringing breakthroughs, with Venus creating our heart's desire in our 10th house with that Geminian energy. It's going to also pave a way for new opportunities, for change, particularly when it comes to career and money that bring financial gain through those avenues. They also will basically bring quick growth with the Eight of Staffs, right? This is a time to really embrace that adaptability with being in the flow with that Geminian energy, particularly with Uranus, because Uranus moves fast. And we've also got Mercury and Leo in our 12th house of spirituality, right? So this is where your ideas are gold. Your ideas are meant to be revolutionary, evolutionary, and Mercury is speedy when it comes as being the messenger, so expect things to move rapidly during this time. Fast progress, quick growth, doors opening for you when you choose to move towards those higher vibrations of your north, your true north, and your north node. But more importantly, move towards it with excitement. So this is the time with the 7th house, basically, where, again, the 7th house governs marriage, partnerships, both romantic and business, one-on-one connections, but Saturn is going to be emphasizing these areas in our 7th house. So resurfacing with retrograde, This will, just to be, not sugarcoating by any means, but just to let you know and prepare you, it's going to be resurfacing past issues, past agreements or current agreements and patterns, and bring them up for review. This is basically like a karmic check-in with what you're committing to, right? How you're extending yourself. And again, like I say, you're not responsible for anyone else's emotional stability or their sovereignty. Their responsibility, like for their own leading, for their own leadership when it comes to leading the self. You need to let those burdens go. And this is what the 7th house is truly allowing you to review when it comes to those agreements, those past issues, those governances, and also those past patterns. So especially if you've been, just speaking toxic relationship-wise, if you've been in places where there's been an abuse of power in that way, when it comes to people basically leaning on you without taking responsibility for themselves, when it comes to basically communicational aspects where they really want you to be the peacekeeper, the scapegoat in a lot of ways, or even to the golden problem fixer. This is where you can release those aspects, really focusing on releasing those lower vibrational responsibilities that you were never meant to have. You're not meant to fight or learn or tackle or conquer anyone else's karmic lessons. You're signing up, like you signed up at a soul level for your karmic lessons. Part of those relationships are to teach you that you are sovereign. You're not responsible for learning, for healing anyone else's karmic lessons but your own. But it's through that love language, through that love leadership, through kindness, compassion, empathy. Also, too, it's okay to be there for people, but to let them have their own sovereignty, right? You don't need to be the problem fixer. Let them fix their own. This is with the Queen of Pentacles coming to the table in your love leadership as a sensible, nurturing person, building and fostering that security when it comes to trust, when it comes to building that spiritual wealth and that stability without over leveraging yourself is what this time in our 7th house is really going to let us visit. So expect, just saying to prepare you, expect that this can really manifest during this time, especially as Saturn comes in to bring up karmic lessons, how we handle these issues so that we can confront and resolve them, let go of who and what's no longer serving our highest good, and allow ourselves to really grow emotionally. That this can manifest with communication breakdowns, emotional distancing, feeling overshadowed. This is where you're going to be needed to stand when it comes as the Queen of Pentacles, with that sensibility, with that nurturing aspect, and that truly involves nurturing the self, right? So this is also a time in business where you could expect delays, or it brings on delays with this retrograde, conflicts, reassessment of contracts. A big one too, which isn't a bad thing, as business changes, right? Because change is the only thing that we can count on in this world. That's where basically we're in a 3-dimensional world, right? Positivity, like the duality of positivity and negativity, is the third point, or the third axis, which can either be neutral, but really what it stands for is motion when it comes to that triangle, that prism, right? And so this is the time truly, as business needs change, as evolutions occur within the business through growths or through losses. You may find as well that this is a time where a need to redefine roles as well as responsibilities really come to the table. So restructuring may be needed as well. And that goes with building a business, being a self-employed person, going after your side hustles, turning them into full-time hustles. And also too, you could be seeing that if you work for another business or another entity, that restructuring really takes place between this time as well during this summer. No matter what the test is, no matter what the test is of the contracts, the roles, the conflicts, the responsibilities, trust that you have all the ingredients that's needed to elevate, to mature, to deepen your emotional responsibility for the self through communication of boundaries, desires, needs. And this is the time with the Two of Pentacles in reverse, where it's really going to be uncovering what's been neglected with priorities. I don't know why I can't say that word, priorities. What's going to be, what's been neglected with disorganization. What's caused an unbalance where one side is overwhelmed, one side is unbalanced, where there's too much weight on one side's too heavy, whether it be spiritually, financially, emotionally, responsibly, right? Or responsibility. And what's been too light. To balance those scales, again, this is all about that Libran energy coming in. This is all about utilizing that Libran energy of equitability and with fairness. And that goes from the internal side of divine femininity and masculinity, balancing on that inner world, right? But also too on a collective level when it comes to societal and spiritual levels and structures. So during this time as well, just remember that you have all the ingredients that you need. And with the connections that basically honor these transitions, boundaries, honor the desires and the needs, the communication, their emotional responsibility, the patience, honor the honesty, and also the compromise. These are the relationships and the connections that will prove to stand the test of time and that will grow, endure, and heal during this time and will undoubtedly emerge more resilient, more stable, and prove to be more fulfilling. Like I say, Saturn is monumental with this retrograde. This is like where you want to go and who's going with you. But either way, remember, you take the lead. Now, on a collective level, like I say, the biggest thing with this retrograde that don't be surprised if you see, and I'm just going to speak on a very brief, I don't want to offend anyone, so I'm just going to say this in a very kind of high level way. But societally, we've basically seen and been governed by a very unbalanced level or scale when it comes to patriarchal aspects versus matriarchal aspects. The divine feminine and the divine masculine have played two different roles, but the divine feminine has taken a lower seat. So at a collective level, expect during this time particularly, especially when Saturn moves into Pisces and into the 7th house for Virgos in particular, that you'll be really seeing in your life manifest and in society manifest matriarchal societies really leveraging up or really leveling up in a lot of ways. And there'll be a bit of friction in between the two, right? There'll be a bit of conflict arise when it comes to feminine rights versus masculine rights and feminine responsibility versus masculine responsibility. Now, that's not a bad thing. This is a good thing, right? So the biggest thing even within ourselves is that we have both divine feminine and masculine within each of us. At a society, like societal level, especially with Neptune being in retrograde as well, fostering a collective conscious and raise in that, especially with Pluto in retrograde in Aquarius. We're really going to be seeing these two basically evening themselves out and these scales being reinvented through outside the box revolutionary ways. And so bringing it back down to a much more tangible level when it comes to how it impacts our life. So remember on that, like when you're talking about the roles that the feminine plays in our societal structure and also the divine feminine or masculine and the roles that the masculine level has played, it goes both ways. So in the way of basically you'll see a lot more women coming into leadership, into power, and also too allowing men or the masculine to really step back. And it goes both ways. Like I say, women are basically being allowed to hear themselves. And on a personal level, that's where it's like you'll see a lot more women on a personal level, basically building their own sovereignty in their finances. No longer looking to being needed to be, when it comes to marriages, feeling like they need to be basically in a marriage to find their self-worth, but instead they're finding their sovereignty, their independence, and standing stronger when they come to the table as an equal partner with their divine masculine partner that they choose in their life. And also too with the masculine aspects, there's been a lot of pressure put on the masculine energies when it comes to taking the role of leadership, right? Being the provider, always having to take the lead when it comes to being the powerhouse, not being able to be honored for their vulnerability, and especially when it comes to their emotions. This is where the feminine is allowing these structures to really be challenged, those perspectives to be challenged, is what Saturn retrograde is going to bring for us. So allowing men to stand in a more vulnerable role, allowing them to honor their emotions in the ways that are nurturing, that women have been able to do and really express. That's where women are going to be stepping into leadership as well, coming to the table as equitable partners for each other, and basically leading in a way where we're stronger together, in a way where we come to the table together financially, in our leadership, in our nurturing qualities. Like I say, it's very, very beautiful. And so just kind of keep that in mind. It goes both ways. I'm not trying to say one is more empowered or there's a negative to a positive, but basically it's about finding that middle ground again and leading in the way that unity is our strength, as opposed to one holds power over the other. And if that resonates, by all means, like I say, share your thoughts, put a heart in the comments below, like, share, subscribe. But with our spirit animals, with our ancestors, what really came out here is adventure and wisdom. This Saturn retrograde is going to be a transition. Like I say, it's about where you want to go, who's going with you, and recognizing that you are in the driver's seat. So with the orca whale, this is about daring to do things differently, right? Singing your song, opening that throat chakra, manifesting your dreams, including if they require movement. Remember, with that prism, of duality on a two-dimensional scale, we've got positive and negative. When we move to a three-dimensional scale, we've got movement, which can also translate as time. And then when we move to our higher dimensional beings, which is really what this is uncovering for us, what this whole retrograde is uncovering for us, we realize that we are in fact way more powerful than our three-dimensional shells are, that our shadows are. We as a soul are so much more than just three-dimensional beings. This is about being able to stand in that empowerment when it comes to your manifestations and attempting the great journey with confidence as we ascend, being loyal in our relationships and in our commitments to our friends and family through that resilience, more stable, bringing in more fulfilling connections, right? Recognizing just how much of a treasure they are. This is also a time to stand in your bravery and know that you have more power than you realize. And it's because of your wisdom as you go and ascend towards your north node, towards your true north. Let your head and your mind reach to the stars. Keep your feet on the ground, on the earth at the same time. And so especially with Mars and Virgo, it's going to be helping us with that grounding. Especially with Capricorn energy, with Saturn ruling Capricorn, it's giving us that grounding, that balance and alignment between all of our chakras. But this is the time truly to listen to the ancient wisdom of your soul. Your ancestors are speaking clearly through you because they've also taken all those lessons that they've learned along the way and they've given them to you when you were born. And if that resonates, like I say, share your thoughts. Now, before we go, I just want to look at our major arcana because music medicine is the way through our alignment and unblocking, walking towards our liberation and our freedom. So what we pulled here, and this is beautiful numerologically speaking, we've got balance, harmony with the 6. We've got divine feminine energy, reducing to the 4, bringing it down to our stability and our foundations, right? And so music medicine, what we pulled is the D and the G. And then color therapy, what we pulled is the orange and the teal. And so try utilizing these colors, especially as you're empowered during this time, especially as you overcome and release those karmic contracts, those soul contracts that no longer serve you, so that you can rise and ascend even further towards your true north. And so I truly hope that this message helps. I am sending so much love and light to you. Take care. Have a wonderful Saturn retrograde, don't ask, retrograde. Check out too Neptune retrograde's video if you need some more depth on the connection between Saturn and Neptune, with them being conjunct right now as well. But either way, I'm sending so much light and love. Take care, and I'll see you in the next reading.